Hello survivors, I'm the SurvivalVis, and welcome to a little bit of a review of Bigfoot. There's not going to be, we're going to hop into a game and do some stuff. I'll probably have some idle gameplay going in the background as I talk. But this is mostly to assess my thoughts on how Bigfoot is now with version 4. I didn't really get much gameplay of Bigfoot before the version 4 update, but this one, I think it's taken too many steps actually against what the game is itself. Like, we're going to start off right now just talking about, like, how Bigfoot is during the day and night. During the day, I can understand him, like, being more away and out of the, like, not knowing where he might exactly be. But it feels more like you completely have nothing you can really do to him during the day, unless you have traps down and you're stalking and waiting for him to be in one. Since you remove tracking bullets from the game, you have nothing you can really use to keep tabs on him aside from a camera detection. So it becomes half of the entire gameplay cycle, unless you have traps down or actively watching them, you can't interact with him in any way, you can't really find him all that much. So he's removed from the equation almost during the day, and only do you encounter him at night. And at night, there's a lot of BS going on. He actually has a damage reduction for the night. So that's why all the times I've gone up against him in the series and weapons do so pitiful damage, it's actually because the game is rigging it so he has damage reduction at nights, which is unnecessary if he has a health regeneration. So my big thing, throw out the damage reduction at nights, and if he has enough damage that he takes, just have him run off, and then he'll try to regenerate that instead of just fighting to whatever little, like, knocking you down or trying to pummel you over in a way. Make him smart to think, this hurts, I'm leaving. Not, this hurts, I'm going to keep going through it. The damage reduction is way too heavy. I think, from what I've been reading, it's like 20%. So that's why handgun, which, towards the end there, if it wasn't for that reduction, that would have actually been us getting him down, because he was only at 8 health. He was at 8 health, and that still would have taken 4 shots just to get down. So that's my big gripe there, is no reduction of damage throughout day or night. There's no reason for that to exist, throw it away, it's just rigging the game. When it comes to day and night, during the day, you give tracking bullets back. Just have them a very limited quantity, but if you can get him with one, then you can actually see where he is, so during the day, you can do more to go after him. You don't have to rely on traps to lure him in somewhere. You can actually follow him and see where he is and set up, okay, we're going to try to position here, I can get to here and watch and try to get some shots off on him. Have more interaction for some of the game where you can hunt him back, not always him hunting you. At night as well, I think there has to be something a bit different. He seems to have this proximity effect where, as soon as he's in an area with you, he knows immediately where you are and he just beelines it and chases you to that spot. I'd rather it be more he has to try looking around for you. If you are able to find a house, pull the curtains up, crouch down or light out in nothing and just stand there in the dark with the door closed, you might hear him wandering around, but if nothing actually clues him in, like a footstep, to where you are, he should not be able to know where you are and, like, attack through and bash down a door to get you. Another thing, seriously reduce the amount of times he has the road sign. Every single night he gets a new one. Throw that out. Every third night, every few nights. Once he uses one up, make it so he doesn't get a new one every dang day. Because that's annoying to always have him getting those. How come he can resupply infinitely with the road signs, and we can't get more supplies aside from what we find in the map? That actually brings me to another topic. The dead bodies serve no purpose right now. They're landmarks to find on the map, and I might have to check it up, so I may be mistaken, but I don't believe they serve a purpose, as in, you get more supplies if you find one, or you get something, there's some merit to actually finding the bodies. They're just out in the map. They don't do anything for it, and I think that needs to be changed and addressed with something else. If you find a body, say you get a little bit of ammo, a first aid kit, a flare, something that makes it feel like these are little perks to find. These are loot boxes in a way, or these are treasure chests. You find one, you go back to your RV, and it's like a delivery you get for finding and reporting the body. Without that, there's no reason at all to go or find a body. They're just out there for whatever reason. At least make them have some reward in that. The big one, though, that I really think Bigfoot has to be addressed, although it's regarding his health regeneration, because as we saw in the last episode, it took a lot to just get him down to like 50 health or so, but then he instantly got 40 of it back by just something, by eating something. If you're going to make it that difficult to get his health down at night, then either remove the health regen cap, or remove the damage reduction and keep his health regenerated, or he can regenerate the health. There's too many systems against you just actively trying to take him down. There are some things that I also think could be done a little bit differently. Traps. I can understand that it's actually meant to be 40 if there's no meat in a trap and 50 if there is, and that more is to apply if he's wandering during the day and say he steps in a meat trap. The idea is he takes more damage, but I think it's miscoded right now, so he'll always take the 50 if there's meat in a trap. Make it so these things have a set durability. It's too frustrating to try to deal with RNG of, this trap survived this encounter, but this one didn't. This one lasted 2. This one didn't even last just the 1. Like, you can't really understand why certain traps break and others don't. It's so much luck of the draw, it's hard to make in a war of attrition that Bigfoot is right now. If there's something where you can plan out more, okay, I only have these 10 traps, so I'm not going to use any at night. Or I only have these 10, I have to figure out more specifically. Or I have 20 traps because they each last 2 times. That gives you planning and understanding of what you can strategize with. Another issue I'm going to talk about here also, because we're talking about like item uses, the flare gun and the signal flares. If these repel him, they repel him completely for the night. They send him off, and it buys you time to do some stuff, and just basically sends him out of the area. This was basically how it operated before the version 4 update, and that kind of made you feel like you had some breathing room. Yes, they should still be kind of scarce and hard to find as we've encountered in the game, but if they're going to have an effect, they can't just be that little of an effect. Because of how aggressive Bigfoot is, you really don't have that much time to do much against him, especially throwing on that 20% reduction of damage. Another thing too is if I could actually load the previous game. I'm going to click this for a moment. How is this applied? Because you can see right here, these are now set at 2, but when I started this, they were set back to 1. So does that actually mean that loading in games, they're all set back to the standard default of 2, or they've kept the 1 setting to start with? I honestly don't know. So I don't know if that's a bug, or it's just a visual error or something, but that's one thing I'd like solved as well. Another thing about Bigfoot, I'm trying to think of what else I want to talk about. The ammo and the weapons. In the statistics screens of last episode, we saw he took 421 shots. 421. And he still got us in the end. For a single player against that, that's absurd. That is absurd. This is basically the point where it feels like if he has 1,000 health, and you're lucky if you do 10 damage per shot of a weapon, that'd be 100 shots you need put into him. But he can take 421. Make ammo a little less available, a little scarcer, but increase the damage. These are firearms. They should be doing more damage to him. If you're going to really tell me that when it comes to a big, muscular, built-up thing like this, that melee weapons are going to do more damage than pistols, shotguns, etc., that's just absurd, and there's no point in that. I think the melee weapons might be something good, where, say, if you're fighting hand-to-hand, you can block, you can defend, you can sort of tank him in a way. In fact, I think one of the characters, if I take a quick look at this, I just want to take in, because I think there is somebody, 10% melee damage, and 15% vitality. So you can have certain characters actually like fight melee against Bigfoot. You can block with weapons, you can defend, you can actually fight back. At this point, there's not really a big reason for melee weapons unless they do a stupidly absurd amount of damage compared to everything else. It'd be really big if you could actually like stall some of the damage he puts out if you have melee weapons in hand. Because he basically does a first aid kit worth at least every time you encounter him. So that is a strain on your supplies every night he kind of engages you. If you can have it so the melee weapons reduce the amount of damage you take, you can prolong your first aid supplies and also feel like you have more interaction between them. It's not just he comes rushing in at you and you either have to trap him to delay him, signal flare, or shoot him with a flare to stun him, to send him off. Then he'll come running back anyway, and pumping ammo or, like, ammunition into him. There needs to be a bit more interaction between you facing what he's able to do against you. I can't really speak for anything as you play as Bigfoot, but I do have some ideas there as well, so I guess we'll shift to that. Bigfoot's traps, I like the idea of. I just don't like how you don't have a visual clue until you're stuck in one that there's actually a trap there. I think it'd be better if Bigfoot can actually, like, find sticks and rocks, and can make the traps yourself and plant them. And then also make the traps an interactable things for both sides. If Bigfoot places traps down, if you're able to see a mini-map while you are Bigfoot, you can actually see which trap was sprung, so you know where your enemy might be, so you could either try rushing to them to try to get one quick, or you can say, okay, they're this way, I'm going to stay more away from them and try to figure out if there's a way I can sort of just kind of follow behind and watch what they're up to. On the same token, if you're a hunter, and you should be able to see the traps, what if you could spring it yourself to trigger him to come investigate? I think that'd be a better way than just these invisible traps that all of a sudden, you're up with a QuickTime event. If you do get stuck, I think you should kind of be susceptible to having them do damage to you, but I think they should have some visual indicator in the world they are there. I also don't know if Bigfoot's able to, like, make the deadfall traps, where I encountered a few times as I was playing where if you would, like, break a sort of like trees would snap and fall on top of you across pathways or that. I was stupid and got hit by a few myself, but I don't know if the player can actually, as Bigfoot, set those up. If they can, that's another neat thing where, just like the other traps. Make it so that way it is both sides can interact with each other through their own means. Like, for instance, if you have Bigfoot stumbling across a trap as the player, what if you, say, kill an animal, toss it into the trap, and you can actually, like, let out a howl to mimic you were in that trap. So then all the hunters who might be around rush over just to find out the trap's been used, they're not ready for you, and you can spring an ambush one and get some damage in. I think that covers most of my issues with the game. The biggest thing is that the tuning is out of whack for how things are. Like, when I first started the first episode of Bigfoot on the second playthrough with the lower settings, it felt like I shredded using the semi-auto rifle or the automatic rifle that the game can let you find in one of the safes. But then on reloading, I feel like the game then changed the numbers up and it sent it up to the higher difficulty on me. And again, that's something even show here. So I think that could be investigated to see what's going on with those. Is it actually up to 2, or is there a bug and it's still 1? I feel like it actually got set to standard of 2 on reloading, and that might have made a very big difference. Another thing too would almost be, as a hunter, just getting a chance to know what stuff is doing, almost like a target range in a way. Like, for the dynamite, how was that supposed to operate? Is it actually you throw it and it would detonate like a grenade, or was there something else to it? For the car battery, how does that work? Is that actually like a stun where you put down, shoot, and does something, or things like that? Give you some more hands-on about how does this work, how does that work, without feeling like you are only able to do that in a game and you've just thrown a resource away to try and figure it out. Like, one thing was the gas canister. that I kind of had... Actually, see, now that's actually a problem I have. The gas canister I used in the previous episode, it actually went off and seemed to stun him. But the other time when I did, I don't think he got stunned at all. It didn't seem like he had a long stun before he was already in and chasing us. I might be mistaken, and because of the fire I panicked and was, like, trying to get out of it. But it didn't seem like for the first time I tried the gas canister on him, it actually, like, stunned him or anything. Another thing, too, is just the amount of damage those explosive things do. If the traps are doing 50, I really thought that the canisters and that would have done more damage because you can only carry the one per time. So, again, it just seems mostly coming down more to not all the mechanics are flawed, but the numbers and the tuning between what damage you do and he does has some work that needs to be taken care of and readjusted on it. Right now, it doesn't really feel like it's truly a hunt for Bigfoot or against Bigfoot. It's more like this cat... It's not even cat and mouse, because like during the day, you can't really do anything unless you have the traps and you're waiting at a spot which you're just stuck watching and waiting and waiting and waiting. Then at night, you can't really deter him or defer him in a way aside from just keeping mobile to avoid his patrol. I think the most part is figuring out how to handle the health regeneration and getting rid of the damage reduction on him. Because how do you even explain that? Well, at night, the moonlight makes him super muscled and angry and and no. That doesn't make any sense from any logic. Just throw that out and keep him with the health regeneration, and that probably, if you address one of the two, might make it better. Like, throw out the health regeneration and keep him super tanky. Okay, that's fine. Or keep the health regeneration, but make him so he has no health reduction, no damage reduction. And that might still work fine too. The big thing with him is easily the numbers aren't aligning for what you expect from it. I guess to kind of put together a summary of Too Long Didn't Watch. Number 1, remove the 20% reduction at night from, like, the damage he takes. There's no reason for it, it doesn't make sense, it's just rigging the game against you as a hunter, so toss that out. Number 2, I'm okay with the health reduction as long as you get rid of the damage reduction. Or the health regeneration is fine as long as damage reduction isn't there. If there is going to be a damage reduction, completely remove the health regeneration. Or, even put that in as new settings. Like if you go to create a lobby and you're going up against him, again, I just gotta do something quick there. Have more settings than just these 3. Have Bigfoot HP regen, yes, no. Have Bigfoot damage reduction, yes, no. Or even set it from variables of 0 to 20%. Or if you're looking for an even bigger challenge, 0 to 30%. Stuff more that you can kind of customize and figure out where your starting point is, and then you can always make it more challenging as you want to keep going. Another thing with the characters, firearms, no matter what you do, reduce the amount of ammo available, but increase the damage they do. A pistol or revolver, like what I was using for the handgun, there's no justifiable way to say a little pistol is only doing 2 to 3 damage. This is something that can kill a person. There's no reason it should be so pathetic against him. I'd say bump that up to... Probably I'd say to 10. I was thinking 5, but even then, that's kind of too low for it. I think bump it up to 10, but again, just make ammo more scarce. Before version 4, I think it actually worked better in that regard, because I think ammo was a lot harder to stockpile and get a good amount of. But it still might have been a little too weak against him. I think most of the mechanics are sound and are fine to stay in place. It's just figuring out the tuning and the numbers at this point. That, and also trying to figure out a way to make it more engaging during the day against Bigfoot. Because let's say you got the map completely covered like I had at the end. Unless you had traps saved up to put out an ambush, you had nothing you could do against him during the day. You were stuck without a means of, like, fighting back or going after him anymore. Overall, it's an interesting experience, but I think right now it's a bit too rigged against a hunter if you're trying to play like solo against it. Maybe it's a bit different if you just start from like a 1 difficulty like I had for the second go, and the reload bumps it up to 2 and kind of screws you over. Because, I mean, that could explain some stuff, but overall, interesting experience. The single-player series I'm going to bring to an end with the last episode. I will probably keep open, maybe try multiplayer once I can grow the channel and get, like, collaborations or something going, but for now, I think it was a good showcase of how Bigfoot version 4 currently is, its flaws, its pros, and where it kind of sits. So thank you guys for joining me on this little bit of a review episode of Bigfoot. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to give it a like, and if you have any comments, tips, or tricks, be sure to leave it all in the comments right down below. I always try to respond to any feedback or questions that might come up, and do start a discussion with me. I'd like to see what you guys think for like how he is. Are there things you see changed or improved, nerfed or buffed, or what have you for dealing with him? It can be good, it just comes down to those numbers for me. But until I do catch you all in the next video or series, survivors, please remember, as always, to take care and stay alive.